This is Ruth Medd from Women on Boards. I hope you're all well. I'm not sure I'm enjoying winter in Sydney, but there we go. This week, for the week of the 28th of May, I've got the special annual Agri edition of the Women on Board Zoom vacancies. Many of you will have heard me talk about the range of R&D type corporations in agriculture, funded in part by levies from growers, so-called, and also the federal government, that provide services to the agricultural sector. There's 14 of these corporations, which are listed in our Boardroom Diversity Index if you want to look at them all. But about this time of the year, they start advertising for vacancies for their forthcoming AGMs, which are usually in about November. So on the jobs board at the moment, we've got Agri Futures, the Cotton Research and Development Corporation, Dairy Australia, Grains R&D Corporation, and the Sugar Research Australia. And some of you will have got one of my snap vacancies because I'm also, in combination of doing this Zoom call, I'm also sending out snaps to those of you who match the criteria. As a general rule, to apply for any of these Agri vacancies, you need to have some affinity with the agricultural sector. For example, Grains R&D Corporation. They're fairly keen on grain growers and people closely associated with grain growing. But they also do need people who've got finance skills and marketing skills. So they're a fairly, what I might call, slightly closed shop, or slightly specific as to who their board members are. But in contrast to that, there's something like Agri Futures Australia, which is an organisation I have a bit to deal with in line with my activities at Charlie's Chocolates, because Agri Futures are there to support emerging agricultural industries. And believe it or not, cocoa growing is an emerging agricultural industry. So we did a research and development project with Agri Futures about a year and a half ago. But Agri Futures in particular has got a much wider remit than things like cotton or dairy or fisheries. And so they tend to hire directors with broader skill sets. So it's about emerging industries. So you might think you need to know something about agri-tech. You might think you need to know something about export markets. You might think you need to know something about marketing in general. So that's probably a board that a lot of you might be able to put your hand up for. Whereas Cotton Research and Development Corporation, for example, you do need to know a bit about cotton growing. So of the 14 that are available generally, 5 of them are currently on the WOB jobs board, and I expect that others will appear in the next month to 6 weeks. So Agri-focused board members, Agri-focused WOB members, please have a look at these. They're really interesting and rewarding. And in my view, Australia's got 3 things going for it. It's got our capacity to dig things up, the resources sector. It's got our capacity to efficiently grow things and be innovative, which is the agricultural sector. And the third pillar, until this week with perhaps PwC's unfortunate activities, is the services sector. We have high quality legal, accounting, and other types of service providers. So Agri is important, so I encourage you to have a look. Now, others on the jobs board that are to do with agriculture, there's quite a number of other things as well. So I just mentioned in passing 30565, Tasmanian Dairy Industry Authority. This is via the headhunter Chapman Executive in Hobart, and they're looking for a chair. Closes on the 31st of May, so be quick. I imagine they'll prefer a Tasmanian, but if you're a dairy person and live in Victoria, you might want to consider it. So this is a semi-regulatory body, the Tasmanian Dairy Industry Authority, and wants the sorts of skills that usually go with semi-regulatory bodies. Next up, 30568, Perth Natural Resource Management. So that's Perth NRM. They're looking for an independent chair of their nominations committee. Closes on the 2nd of June. This would be a really good place to start if you're looking for a paid role and you're in the HR space and you need to get a start. They would value your expertise, I am sure, particularly if you live in Western Australia. Next up, 30490, Australian Camel Dairies Proprietary Limited, and they trade as Good Earth Dairy. Now, don't laugh, everybody. Back to talking about Agri futures, one of the emerging industries that they supported a few years ago was the camel industry in its various forms. This one is about camel milk, but there's also camel meat is an element of that initiative. So Australian Camel Dairies Proprietary Limited closes on the 31st of May, national role, and they say on the postings that they're hoping to list in the future. Let's see if that happens. But, you know, camel meat might be the next big thing, and perhaps it is. And finally, 30544, Victorian Game Management Authority. This is via the Headhunters AMROP, based in Melbourne. Closes on the 28th of May. And this is also a regulatory body and is to do, I think, with duck shooting. But do have a read and see if my thoughts are correct. And there's lots of people who want to go and shoot things in Australia, needless to say, and in Victoria in particular, and they're pretty rigorous about managing the duck shooting industry. So there you go. So, okay, we've had a bit of a review of the 14 R&D corporations, as I call them. As I said, they're levies based on the grower activity and part federal funding. They're into, generally speaking, research and development, sustainability, business growth, and lobbying. And they're relatively well paid. Some are more farmer focused than others, and other boards have wider skills. So think about those. Think about some of the others that I've mentioned. And my tip for the month is please, please have a board ready CV. It's not much good seeing a juicy vacancy on the WOB jobs board and saying, I will apply. And oh gosh, all I've got is my regular CV. I haven't practiced writing cover letters and I'm a bit stumped to get my application in on time. So like good Girl Guides, everybody, be prepared. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Agri sector on the WOB jobs board, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks. And please apply. And if you get stuck, send me an email and I'm happy to help out.